Alright, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly market overview. Um, just to cover our basis for the week, just to kind of get a little expectations out of the week to see what we can be looking for level wise. Just a quick disclaimer: anything you see in this video is not financial advice. This is just a market overview for educational purposes. All right, and let us get started. First and foremost, first thing we're going to pull up here is the SPY weekly chart. There is nothing too major to say here. Obviously, there's a little bit of rejection here. We have a lower high and a lower low in this structure that we have here building out. But one thing I do want to point out here is last week we mentioned that on the weekly time frame there was a bit of a pullback here off of our bull trend here, right? We had a little bit of a pullback, and we were really looking to see one, how deep of any pullback would happen. So this was our Monday, or not Monday. This was a previous week's swing high, and we wanted to see if we would either on the takeout here, as we saw, we took out this level here around 597. We took that out, but we wanted to see if we would hold our trend here. And as you see, we are holding our trend with a slight sloping resistance here. But as long as we're holding the trend here on a retest, it's not necessarily bullish off the gate, bearish off the gate. We do want to continue to look out for that 600 level, 590.75, and the 600 level to just see how price reacts here. 590 is your key level here. You do not want to see price start to break below that. But for the time being, we do have a little bit of a look below, but we're still holding within this channel. So that is that's overall still no room for bearish sentiment yet. Once again, all the levels here will be posted at the end of the live. I'll post it in the market overview channel. And then let's go over to the daily here. Okay, so our daily candle, it's a little interesting here, right? So we did take out the Thursdays, the range in Thursdays. On a pullback on Friday, we had that huge sell-off towards the end of the day. But if you notice, what's happening here is similar to what happened last week, right? We're creating these. Let's look at it on the hourly, right? Because this is what we were looking at last week. Last week we saw that we were building this buying channel that was building out here. It's in blue here because it wasn't a strong buying channel. It was more of just testing the range here. So the reason that I have the color light blue, as you all may have noticed, I have a bunch of different colors, but you may not have recognized this line, this color, but there's no actual major significance other than just trying to judge the trend for the week to see if we're holding in a consistent trend here. So similar to last week, you see how we had our sloping support here, sloping resistance, and we had a little bit of a break below with us gapping down below. And then we closed this week on the same sort of sentiment. Yes, we created a lower low, but similar price action is happening here, right? So we had this little consolidation here that we had no strength over near the highs of our range. So on any pullback here on gap downs, we've had some building of buyers are stepping in, and they're having a little bit of struggle near this consolidation that we had near the highs here. Even on this week, we've had a little bit of a rejection up on the upper end of our range here. So for us to have any sort of new highs to break out, I definitely want to see us starting to close over 608. If we close over 608, I would be very confident that we would create some newer highs here on SPY. But for the time being, we just want to make sure that we're holding the 600 level. That is the key thing here. One thing that I also noticed on the daily chart here, if we just pull a little our fibs here from the opening of our week low to our highs, noticed on this Friday's sell-off and pullback, we still maintained price action above the 50%. So as far as this previous week's concerned, we did not fail our trend, right? So our trend is currently up, but we have not had any failures there. Notice how the area where our 50% is fairly closely tied to this 599.58 level that I mentioned last week, being a fairly influential pivot, I would say, for the time being, as we've been in this range for the last 3 weeks now. So most of our lives have been kind of the same when as far as it goes with price action. So the key thing is always making sure we look out for our levels, and just observing how price reacts at our levels, right, our supports and resistances. But like I said, we are not closing under the 50, so I would not be quick to throw bearish sentiment on this long red body pullback here. Once again, we're looking at the 599 600 level, so it just corresponds with that. Just looking at my notes here. As far as pathing, it's similar to last week. There's not too much of a difference here, as far as we're looking below our trend here, and we want to see if we can recapture this trend, right? So any pullbacks here, we want to see a few things, right? So we want to see how a pullback, if we're on a pullback here, if we can retest this 600 level to see what happens here, right? I want to see price action right now on this week's open. The futures market is currently trading at around the 602 level, which kind of goes in confluence with what the pathing I kind of planned out in my head here for how SPY would be moving, right? So a pullback here, retesting our 600 level, maybe some sort of rejection around the 602. So more of some type of price action like this, with a retest of a nice solid retest here and hold before we start breaking upwards, to see if we can close over the 603 level. That's one of the more significant levels as well. We had a lot of consolidation here and no decent price action that actually happened in this range for the last 3 weeks here. All we've had has been sell-offs through it. So it'd be nice to see if we can reclaim the 603 level and kind of see if price can consolidate a bit here, maybe for a day or two. Even if we break down a little bit and start playing around in this resistance level before we start breaking out and trying to test the 608 level to create some newer highs. This may not happen this week, but I do want to see us starting to close over 608 before I see any confidence that we're trying to make new highs, and further confidence in creating another higher low for our test, or I guess breakout to new highs, right? So I would want to see how we start reacting at this 602 level here. We're currently here now, pre-market, but well, I guess overnight / pre-market. So it's be interesting to see how we open up this week. Whether we open up and we're staying in this range, the 601 level range, and chop around for a little bit early morning before we have some breakups or strong pressure underneath. As far as bearish pathing here, there's not too much here to put. It's fairly cut and dry here for the bearish pathing, at least from what I can tell here. So far, our bearish pathing here, one thing on any pullbacks here, we're having some solid buyers stepping in, right? So anytime we've had these gap downs, right, buyers are immediately stepping in. So even if we do for some reason end up gapping down under this level here and we're opening here, say our pre-market starts to have a huge sell-off, we're opening here, we're opening in this range or even underneath here at 590, you know as far as we can see so far, it's not safe to assume that we're immediately going to have some bearish sentiment in the market, right? As you see, as soon as we, even on these gap downs, we just have a crazy upwards momentum for the week. So for bearish pathing, what I would like to see is a few things, right? So if we currently we're opening around the 602 level, like I said, right? So if we have some rejections here, which is kind of happening right now on the market, at least for ES overnight, right? So if we have some rejections around the 602 level, and on that retest of our 600 here, it might lead to sort of a little bit of a bounce. But if we really have any failures underneath here, I would like to see a few things play out, right? So if we have some rejections here, a little bounce here, and a breakdown, right? If we have a breakdown here, based on this consolidation that we've had here, we can safely assume there might be a little bit of a chop, right? Price may hold for a little bit here. Where you really want to have some confidence and a bearish tone is if we start seeing failures of support here at 597, failures at 596, but even more so when we start breaking under 595, and we have some price action that's similar to that. What happens here is we have a head and shoulders pattern playing out here with a rejection here, leading to further downtrend, right? Now, as I mentioned before, if we have a gap down, right? So say if we open in this range here, we don't know right now. The market's at 602-ish, 601 level. We don't know how it's going to be when we look at the market at 9:30, right? All we can do is just play with the price action. So say we do open in underneath this level, what we could have happen here is the same sort of reaction but slightly different, right? So, and what I mean by this is break down around this level, this significant chop that we had here for a couple hours, right? A breakdown of this level here, leading to a high over here at 602. Based on how I drew it out here, it may not happen on Monday, might happen on Tuesday. We might have a little break towards 602 level, and we'll start to see either a pullback here to retest that 600 level, and that's when we're going to be looking for the failures around that level with a chop leading to further downside under 595 is going to be your pivot for this week, right? And what that essentially does is it creates a smaller head and shoulders, right? And this is where I mentioned if we start breaking under 590, that would indicate stronger bearish sentiment, even if we start opening below. With this pattern playing out, it doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, we're going to be breaking down and SPY is going to dump, right? Because what this is looking for is, one, we're trying to see if we have how the rejections near 602 or how price reacts at the 602 level. If we have any pullbacks leading to a retest of the 590 and we start to fail, it'll create that smaller head and shoulder pattern that I drew out here. But what we do want to be looking out for is any sort of a bounce, right? It could bounce here, it could bounce here, it could bounce here. That doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, we have this head and shoulders pattern playing out here and the market's gonna dump. Oh my god, it's under 595 Smoove. Can we short it? Do we short it? No, not necessarily, right? We want to just play with breaks on our support, especially under 595. We want to see how price reacts at the 593 level, 592, all of our supports here, right? We want to see it really start to have some strong closures under 590 before I can say that, the weekly trend has, failed. Um, so just something to be on the lookout. So if you do see some breaks under 600, I wouldn't be so quick to assume that, hey, the market's going to start bleeding. I would just pay attention to see if we have any bounces near our supports. Alrighty, and then let's go to the QQQ chart here. Um, hey DMAC, I'm sorry here. I'm gonna have to server mute you. Just shoot a message in the chat if you have any questions. Alrighty, so let's move over here to QQQ. Once again, let's take a look at the weekly. Um, Similar to SPY, right? We have the same kind of price action here, except with QQQ, we did create a higher high here, and a higher low in the structure. Similar rejections around the 530 level. Really want to start breaking over 530 before we have some confidence that we'll try to test for new highs. So, with the chart here on the weekly here, we've been kind of chopping around in the zone here for a little bit here. We've been in this range for quite some time now. So we definitely want to start seeing some price action, whether it goes below or goes above, right? We make money either way. So we definitely want to see us, hopefully break out of this range sometime soon. I really hope so. Again, this is the weekly chart. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 10 weeks of just chop around, right? That's, what is that, 10 weeks? That's like 2.5 months of just us just playing around in this range. As I mentioned over and over, obviously we're in a huge uptrend on QQQ, right? It's gonna take quite a bit of a pullback before I start feeling any bearish sentiment on QQQ. Let's pull up the fibs here that I drew out a little while ago, right? This is that 50% mark that we were talking about, the 505 level, 503 as well. I mentioned for us to really have some confidence that we're failing this uptrend. As of now, we're not. Any pullback can just be seen as, consolidation in this range, right? So what we were looking at for the last few weeks now has been this bull flag, right, that we have here from the up from our early September moves. So around here, upwards towards our highs. On this pullback, we're in this pullback channel for a few weeks now. We're finally starting to break above, but we're having this slight resistance here at this level here, 530-ish area. Similar to SPY, we had this little chop here in this range above. So it's just more acting as supply now, where sellers are stepping in at this upper area, but buyers are refusing to allow price to break any lower, right? So we want to still watch and see if we have any weekly closures under 505 before I can say, hey, QQQ is over. Our tech rally has come to a halt, right? So we're not there yet. Let's pull up the daily here. And as mentioned, similar to SPY, right? We have this higher low, higher low, higher low building out after every gap down. Right? We had a gap down here, gap down here. Every time we have some sort of a gap down, we're having these higher lows and then stronger pullbacks. Similar to SPY, we have this big pullback here. Once again, we'll just pull up the fibs. It's just nice to see. With the fibs, you always want to see one price starting having more than a 50% retracement. That doesn't necessarily mean we've broken the trend, but it's a good indicator to watch out to say, hey, we're in a rocky road right now. The trend may not be holding up, but as far as we can tell, even on the pullback on Friday, this pullback just is still over the 50%. Similar to SPY. just kind of leading to the point where we can have these higher lows building out on the weekly as well as on SPY, right? We have higher lows here building out, which is still solid, right? We still have room to create these higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low. We still have, on any pullbacks, we're still creating a higher low. So it doesn't necessarily indicate any bearish sentiment yet, right? Far is our daily, don't have anything else to mention on the notes, but I do want to say for just like SPY, right, we want to start seeing if we break under our the midpoint of our range with QQQ, right? So QQQ is usually momentum based, so I kind of look at the midpoint of our range, right? So the midpoint of our range is around the 519 level. I would like to see any closures underneath the 519 level for us to say, hey, we're gonna look for a pullback and retest our lows here. But the interesting part here about our lows is we have around this 510 area, 510, 512 level, right? There's quite a bit of bounces that took place around this area. Solid support. It acted as resistance that became an area of support. So even if we do have any failures into the 519 level, right, we start breaking down underneath 519, we can safely get another bounce around this 512 level, right? As you see, buyers will not let price break under this area. So until we start seeing some closures on the 510, at least we can assume that the weekly trend uptrend is still holding for the time being. But what I do want to say as far as pathing wise, QQQ has a little bit more I guess pathing that you can kind of watch out for. Let's break it down to the hourly here just to give it a cleaner drawing. Ooh. So can I get my drawing tool to pull up here? No. Technical difficulties, excuse me. Shift. Oh, come on, Shift plus, nope. All right, so we're just gonna have to draw it out with the Trading Views tool here. So as far as for any bullish trends, I want to see us retest this 524 75 524.70 level. We're actually opening it near that range, similar to how I mentioned on SPY. We're opening near this range, so a retest of this level with slight pullback, hopefully not breaking underneath our 524 level here, or 521 522 ish level. So more of a smaller pullback here. With SPY, you can afford a little bit of a deeper pullback, and we'll mention that a little bit later as far as our sectors. But for QQQ, I would not look for too much of a pullback. I would like to see some price action like this, with us recapturing with confidence this 526 527 level before breaking out and retesting our resistance here, right? So a clear break over the 530 520 530 531 ish level. We start breaking over, obviously it's not all-time highs, but I definitely see us creating newer highs if we can start having some confidence over this 530 level. As far as for our bearish sentiment, here, oh, one more thing I wanted to mention was on any, if we do have a break upwards like this, on any breakout pullback like this before breaking up higher, we do have head and shoulder, inverse head and shoulders that would be playing out here, with the confirmation would be breaking over this to 530 level. Forgot to mention that. So for our downwards momentum. Similar thing here, right? We're going to be retesting our 519 level. uh, Most likely this will lead to a bounce, as there's a lot of price action here and a lot of support and demand in this area, and it's the midpoint of our range here, right? So we'll definitely expect a little bit of a bounce around this level. It may not give it away right away. With that being said, any pullback and consolidation before breaking under here will give us the similar aspects of having a head and shoulders playing out, similar to SPY, right? But once again, with SPY, even if we start having a pullback here on QQQ, uh, a retest of this level could still lead to a bounce. So I still would not feel overly confident to short, even if we're under the 519 level. Yes, if we're breaking under 519, it would be a good entry to short, but I would be watching out for our supports along the way for a good exit. Would not be holding hope that we're just on a flushing market, right? Because we're not there yet. All right. Moving on to our IWM here. IWM, it is just ranging once again. Nothing crazy here going on. Pull up the weekly the weekly chart here, and on our weekly chart here, we had this huge pullback for quite a bit, some time now. We were waiting to see if we retest this 50% here around 530, see if we can start breaking above. Once we have 1, 2, 3 weeks of price rejecting this 230 level, with our weekly candle being a huge inverted hammer here, right? So I'm not necessarily bullish on IWN at all. We're just leading to a higher low here, so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're on a huge flush. There's a lot of consolidation in this range here, so it would take more momentum in SPY and QQQ for us to feel confident that the IWM is going to be flushing. But I would just always take a look out for IWM. Here are the levels. I'll post them as well. No major pathing out of it. I just want to see if we can retest this 227 level for a few things here, right? One, we want to look for IWM as a good opportunity for to identify if we have any pullbacks happening on SPY. It's a really good indicator, right? If uh, QQQ is our tech, right? So it's one of the major proponents of SPY's price action, right? The second being the financial sector, and everything else kind of shares the same aspects as IWM. So if we do want to see any pullbacks on SPY or looking for confirmations for short, you do want to start seeing it. You want to start seeing IWM having that pullback as well, right? And that this 224, 225 level is a good indicator to judge whether we're on that pullback that SPY is having, right? So as mentioned on SPY and QQQ, we're looking to see a retest of some significant pivots, some significant areas in the price, right? Our 519 level, 590, 595, right? In SPY. And IWM will give you that confidence to know if we're retesting that area, right? So a pullback here breaking under 225, you're going to expect a little bit of a pullback on SPY, and that might be your indicator right there to know, hey, this is that short on SPY, right? Obviously you're not shorting SPY till it drops, but you're looking for a good confidence in saying, hey, is this a small pullback in the market, or are we having that correction that Smoove mentioned, right, on the weekly? I want to start seeing price break under the 225 for that, just as a nice stronger confirmation, right? I'm not seeing anything major as far as pathing here. I do want to see if we test this 227 level, to see if we have either rejection here or confidence above it. Unlike last week where it was above 227 bullish and below it bearish, it's more so I want to see currently this week, I want to see us retest this 227 level and visualize what price action is going to do there. Um, but for now, let's just play out the week, see how it goes. If we start breaking under 224, around 225 ish level, I would feel a little bit safer to say, hey, we're having a little bit of a pullback in the market. But one thing we want to look out for is to see if we can retest this 227 level on IWM. And then let's go to our market overalls. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned on the live, but in our general chat, it will have a little bit of an overview of our news this week. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Forex Factory, but sometimes it can be a little hard to understand how that information there will affect the market, right? You just say, hey, there's news at 8:30. Everyone's telling me not to trade there, or wait for this, or wait for the candle to settle. What does it mean? What's going on? I try my best to explain it for you guys there in the general chat, so you guys can at least appreciate the news, rather than just saying, hey, there's news and I just want to stay away from the market, right? The news does have an influence on the current trend of the market, right? We can have some huge turnovers based on that news. All right, so first and foremost, always like to look at a high yield bond. This is our risk sentiment into the market. We had a little bit of a rejection here on the daily. I don't go anything lower. You really want to just be looking at the daily and weekly trend of it. As far as the daily trend here, we did have a little bit of rejection at the 78.90 level, but we did support over 79 as we mentioned last week. We do not want to see us starting to break underneath the 79 level, but we came to retest that 78.80 level here. Once again, this is our risk sentiment on the market, right? So if this starts to have some positive momentum, then our tech sectors, like QQQ and those sectors, our tech sectors, will be doing well. We'll go over more in the semiconductors in a moment here, but our tech sectors overall, they feel this is definitely influential for our tech sectors, which kind of gives us that huge exponential growth in the market. So we do want to see if we can retest this 79.80 level and start breaking over. If we start breaking over here, then I would feel more comfortable saying that QQQ and SPY are going to be trying to test either their previous highs or creating new highs, right? So this is something you definitely want to be looking out for. You want to see us starting to have some strong momentums over. It kind of shows us that investors are willing to put money into the market, and they're feeling confident about the market's growth. So this is once again, it's the high yield bond, it's the HYG. Let's go to our TLT. Here is our treasury bonds. So last week I mentioned that it seems like we're having this liquidity grab right around the 90 level. I wanted to see some rejections here at the 90, as mentioned last week, and we did have a slight rejection here. One thing I wanted to point out is our treasury bond has been moving with SPY, which is kind of neutral in the market, but I do want to see it move, I guess, inverse, you could say. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely, hey, this is flushing and SPY's running up, but you do want to see SPY picking up way more momentum over the treasury bond here. Our treasury bonds is more of our defensive stocks. It indicates more of a risk off sentiment, so less into tech and more into other defensive sectors. So we do want to see if we can continue to reject this 90 level, even if we have any positive momentum, just making sure that we're not breaking out of this trend here over our 90, or even coming up to 91, 92 level. I want to see us continue to reject at this 90 level. And then for our semiconductors, these are your all your major semiconductors, AMD, Nvidia. As you can see, just by this price here, right? Let's ignore all of these lines here, right? Because they're no longer anything that we're looking at right now, right? So from looking at this chart, you just see a bunch of chop happening, right? And this essentially is what's been happening, right? If you're trading Nvidia, you're like, one person saying not to get into it. You're maybe trading all your supports and resistance. You're getting in, you're getting out. There's no huge, oh my god, waiting to let Nvidia go through the roof or flush down the drain, right? It's just been chopping around here. I want to start seeing us have further confidence. Once again, we're rejecting this 250 level a week after week. Really, really, really is it important that we start breaking over 250 on our semiconductor ETF, which is SMH. Breaking over this 250, that's when I feel comfortable that one QQQ is gonna test its highs. Nvidia is gonna have that breakout that we're all looking for. With it having its earnings coming up on the 26th, it's very interesting to see if we start breaking over 250. Any price action over 250, that's when you feel comfortable. Hey, we're going to be creating new highs, or Nvidia is going to have some huge breakout and break out its new highs. Until we are over 250, none of that is likely at this moment, right? We're not seeing that here based on our semiconductors ETF. So really want to start seeing us break over that 250 level. And then quick things I'm just going to point out for a few of the sectors. I won't go through all of them, just a few of them that I wanted to point out. One of them is our financial sector. That is our second major influence in SPY, with the first one being our tech sector, our XLK. But our financial sector is having a huge run here, right? We were looking to see if there was any on this pullback here. We wanted to look for price action over the 50 level. We mentioned last week, just to see if this retracement here is just a retest of this support. And we did not want to see us break under our 50% here, but we wanted to see if what price would do here. If we have some supportive bounce here, and to see if 52 would lead to a rejection or pushes above. We actually created an all-time high on the ETF. One thing you can be looking for our XLF is you can take a look at like JP Morgan, for example. Explosive moves, right? Just huge pushes up. So this is our XLF is currently our major proponent, like leading SPY's confidence, right? Any pullback has been holding price up. Our tech sector has not been having that confidence, right? As we saw with the SMH, our tech sector is mainly being pushed by our semiconductors, and semiconductors is not having any major movements. So currently our XLF, our financial sector, is holding up, giving confidence to SPY. So we do want to see this continue to grow. XLF and the XLK, our tech sector, can grow in tandem. In fact, that's really, really good. That's even a stronger indication of risk on sentiment. But for now, we have our XLF leading it. So I just want to see if we can, on this retracement we have here, if we're gonna start to retest that 52 level and break above and just keep holding over this 52, that's just gonna lead to further confidence in the market. And as far as our XLK here, right, we have the similar price action to QQQ, right? We just have these huge run-ups and pullbacks. Nothing major here that I wanted to point out as far as patterns or anything else, but I do want to say that we want to look out for some test around this 238 level. I know we're a few dollars away here, but I do want to see us starting to pivot over this 238 25-ish level, just to lead further confidence in the tech again, right? So we're having these run-ups and we're obviously bouncing off supports, right, having slight resistances, but any price action over this 238.25 level is going to give us more confidence in tech, right, and showing that tech will continue to lead the market, right? It leads the market in a much different way than other sectors, right? It gives you that exponential growth in your stocks. That's what everyone's looking for, right? We're not looking, not all of us have the luxury of buying $1 million in stocks and just waiting for it to grow, right? We are all looking for that quick get in, get your money, and get out, right? So we do want to start seeing us starting to break over this 238.25 ish level, just to lead to further confidence in tech. And then one thing I just wanted to notice was our our real estate sector here, right? It's been having a huge downtrend for the longest here. We were looking to see if we would break out of this smaller downtrend, but on the larger downtrend, we have not broken over a 50%. In fact, we rejected multiple times here. So any of this uptrend that we've had, until further notice, let's look at the weekly. Until further notice, we can just assume that this is just recovery and a bear flag consolidation until we break out of this range. This, you do want to see this move in tandem with our financial sector, because if our financial sectors, the reason our financial sectors are going to go up with our real estate sectors is because people are buying houses, right? They're pulling out loans. There's more confidence and spending the money, to get a house, get loans in general. Do people feel financially secure enough to invest, right? Because that's essentially what this breaks down to, right? Aside from just buying houses, do people have confidence in putting that money on in the market, right, to risk it, or are they going to be stepping back and going towards more defensive stocks, right? So just interesting to see if we're going to start breaking over this our 50%, which is around our 42.25 level on our XLRE here, our real estate sector of SPY. Did not see if there's any questions. I'm sure. Yeah, it's okay. Anyways, we are going to be looking at our FXI, which is our China large caps. So one thing I wanted to notice, point out here is on this push up, we were looking to see if there was how this pullback was gonna, if it was gonna be. We're looking at the weekly, so we're looking to see if this is just a bear flag pullback. Obviously, it was not. We led to a lower high. This would probably be around the 50%. But one thing we noticed is we're still in this controlled selling channel, so we want to start seeing if we break below our green trend line here for confidence that it's going to be going down. But we're at the point here where we're testing a new sloping resistance that playing out here, with our fight with the tariffs back and forth. It's very important to be looking at our FXI. The reason for that is it's a good indicator of the global market sentiment as far as risk on, risk off. It, not to say that, hey, China markets are going to be the main thing in the market, but it does have a huge influence as far as exports, imports, and so on. So it's very important to see if one, we can start breaking out of this channel and having some positive momentum. Typically, it moves inverse to SPY, so China up, SPY down, but that's only for a short term, right? So on what we see here is, right, we had a pullback and now it's starting to test this resistance for a break higher, right? With SPY having a pullback, right? So SPY is pulling back and this is pushing up. Interesting about this is if SPY is pulling back, this is pushing up, right? Short term, SPY is going to be pulling back. Long term, this shows that there's still a risk on sentiment in the market, which gives us a little bit more confidence to say that, hey, SPY might start to follow that trend. It lags behind. The trend is always, it's inverse, but it's a lagging. It works in a weird way, right? It kind of lags. So if SPY is in a downtrend, this is on a downtrend. Now it's recovering. SPY is going to be on a downtrend, obviously, because it's recovering. But this also shows you that SPY could possibly be recovering as well in the near future, right? Whether it's this week, next week, whenever it is, right? But it just showing. I just wanted to show you guys how the China stocks and SPY has inverse reaction, but it's quite interesting to see the long term reaction be the opposite effect, right? So this is kind of giving more confidence that, with our holding this strong level around 590 ish level on any of our pullbacks. Let's close this out. On any of our pullbacks, right, we're holding a nice solid support on QQQ, on SPY, right? We're holding strong supports here. Um, the China large cap ETF is kind of giving you that same indicator, right? That the market's starting to make its leap upwards. On any of these pullbacks, there's still confidence in the market, so it's definitely want to be taking a look out to see if we have any rejections here, especially with the tariffs here. So any negative news will have a short-term impact on SPY and QQQ, meaning it might go up, but it doesn't mean that it's going to go up forever or it's going to continue with any strength. So you do want to look out to see if we do have some momentums on the upside for both SPY and QQQ. You want to make sure that the volume is matching the price action. It's very important as far as testing the new highs and looking at our ETFs here. And the last thing I'm going to cover is just our mega caps. Nothing too crazy here. I know all of you guys are looking at Nvidia taking a huge long weekly candle here, but we're still not out of the woods here, right? So we broke over this. We're testing the 130 level, right? I'm sure every person you watch and everyone on Twitter is saying, hey, as soon as we get a 130, it's going to be good. This is a great opportunity. But if we pull up the hourly chart here, you'll see that once we got to 130, there was no confidence here, right? We had some push up and some rejections, then consolidation, and a retest on the close. So there's still no confidence over 130, right? So before I can say, hey, we're going to have some huge recovery, especially with our earnings coming out soon. So Nvidia typically has a run up right before earnings and then a flush down. Not to say that's going to happen. You should short it right before earnings, but it is just something to be looking out for. So if you want to see any confidence in Nvidia, do you want to start breaking with strong confidence over 130 for sure. And if we can recapture 132, 132.40 ish, it's a level I've had for quite some time. As far as I can go back, it's been either a strong support or heavy resistance. So if we can start recapturing this 130.40 level, then I'll feel more confident to say that, hey, Nvidia's having some positive momentum. But for now, we're testing that 130, our make or wish here, right? 130. Oh man, we can't wait till Nvidia gets to 130. But we got there, and look what happened. There was a little chop. There's lower confidence here, right? We haven't had that confidence to say that price is going to be shooting upwards yet. And then, yes. Okay. The options ideas. Oh, really? That's good to hear. All right, let's pull it up. The image that you were saying here, right? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So I'll pull this over here. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. All right. There's the Discord directly. So, right here we're talking about. Um. Mhm. So in the channel, what oh, your trend line is this horizontal trend line that's building up, sloping support that's building out here. Yep. And if you can just break down what you were saying, right, instead of me reading it out. Mm-hmm. Oh, like the chart itself. Yeah. Okay. And then watching our volume as well here is important too, right? Decreasing buying volume. Especially any breaks under 127 here. That's going to be, see, strong. There's low lower volume, just either selling, buying pressure, selling pressure, selling pressure, buying pressure. It's in a quick gap down, right? So if we start failing that sloping resistance, which is around the one the 127 level that he drew out here, start breaking under there. It's a smooth drop down, as Moen mentioned. So you definitely want to be looking out to see if we're going to hold it, especially with buyers having confidence in that support level coming up on earnings. It's a great point to point out. And then our last thing, just our Teslas and our Apple here. So, as far as Tesla, one thing I'm looking out for on Tesla here is I want to see. So this 159, 360 ish level here. One thing that's interesting for me is I want to see how price reacts here, right? Do we have some confidence over it? I know it, inherently looks bullish here, bearish here, but this is a great opportunity for us to have that huge reversal here to get that gap. I'm not saying I'm only bullish on Tesla here, but one thing that I'm looking out for this week is I want to see us have some stronger confidence and retest this 380-ish level. If we have a retest there and any pullback that holds over 370, that's when I'm getting in. I would definitely want to see some confidence around 370-ish level, for us to have that upwards momentum to fill that gap. So just want to see one, if any strength can support at least over 370. So any further pushes again holds over 370 is going to be very strong. As far as the downside, I would look to the levels that Mullen posts every day for any downwards pressure. But at least for me, this is something that I'm watching out for to see if um, Tesla can have that run up, retest our 370 level, and then break out to fill this gap here. That's just something I'm looking out for. I'm a patient guy. I look out for structure, as Moen tells you, all of you guys, day in day out. So this is something really important that I would be looking out for. for Tesla is this level here. It's a nice move, right? It's $30 pretty much to fill that gap. If you were to get in at the bottom, right? But further confidence would be an entry here over the 380 level, which is still a great move, right? $20. All right, and then our last thing before I end the night is just our Apple here. Apple is just taking a beating, right? It's just on its this huge downtrend. Even when we had this push up, very little confidence, right? Sellers stepped in heavily around this 245 level here. As far as um, opportunities here, I'm looking to see if we start failing under 220 or 226 level here. Obviously, a break over 230 will be bullish, but I'm looking more of a bearish sentiment here. I'm looking to see if what price is going to do around the 226.55 ish level. I want to see if either we hold here and buyers step in for sort of a bounce and a chop, right? So can either have a bounce, drawing tool. There you go. Bounce here and chop before further rejections. But I want to see if we start breaking under here. If we can start breaking under this 226 level, this 226 I would say is even more confident. So it's just under here. Start breaking underneath here. This is a good opportunity to look for some shorts towards the 219 level here. I would not say I would not hold for anything longer than that. If you do look for any shorts, there's a bunch of supports along the way. I'll post those levels if anybody is curious on them. But one thing I'm looking out for is I just want to see if Apple has any rejections around this 226 level. I think it's a great opportunity to start looking for supports in our charts. I haven't drawn them out yet, so I do suggest you do a little bit of due diligence on there. But I do want to see us break under 226 with the 219, 220 level being a nice area of an exit, because price can easily just shoot rocket right back up, right? Or it might not even go all the way down. So you do want to look out for some supports and resistances along the way. But 226 is going to be a really important level here to see if we have any failures at the 226 level. And with that, I will end our live here. If anybody has any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the recording.